Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are going to be continuing and concluding What If Naruto Was Trained by Dr. Strange, Naruto Mystic Adventures, Part 7. As always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. As we now enter into the final part of this series, in the conclusion of the Fourth Great Ninja War, Naruto and company look to finish things off once and for all against the revived Madara Uchiha and the masked shinobi claiming to be Madara Uchiha. How will the final clash shape the shinobi world? And as Naruto moves on to the future, what will he do when he is called into action? Except now, the fight will not only be for the fate of his world, but for the fate of the multiverse as well. Stay tuned as we now conclude Naruto Mystic Adventures Shippuden Part 7, What If Naruto Was Trained by Dr. Strange? As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. At this point in the war, there would now be two battles fought on two different fronts. On one side, the team of Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha would go and aid the five Kage as they were in battle against the revived Madara Uchiha. And on the other side, Naruto, who had mastered KCM-1, along with Gaara, who had gained access to SCM-1, or Shukaku Chakra mode, along with the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee, Kakashi, Guy, and Jiraiya, would be facing off against the masked Madara. As the battles were taking place on both fronts, we start with the masked shinobi, the one claiming to be Madara. In this battle, to say that he would be at a disadvantage would be an understatement. The primary reason for this is that Naruto would not only have access to high-level ninjutsu, but he would also be using the mystic arts, something that even for a shinobi as skilled as Obito, he would not have a way to counter. Obito attempted to capture Naruto. However, with the aid of his allies by his side, this proved to be difficult. Gaara, in his Shukaku Chakra mode, would have access not only to mastery over sand, but he would have the ultimate magnet release. He would be able to convert his sand from regular sand to iron sand to even gold sand. Using all three different forms of the sand would make him much stronger than he could have possibly imagined, controlling it to a great amount, causing Obito to stay on his guard at all times. Even with the aid of the Rinnegan and the use of the other tailed beast that he had managed to capture aiding him, it still left him at a disadvantage, as Naruto with his mystic abilities was able to counter almost everything that the masked Madara could throw at him. When the masked Madara attempted to use his chakra chains, Naruto would use the mystic chains of Kraken to match him. The chakra chains and the mystic chains summoned from another dimension would collide with one another, a clash of power. Naruto would work and do his best to try to free the other tailed beast. All the same though, While he was able to free them, it did not release them from the grasp that was the masked Madara. But even still, Naruto would still continue to form bonds with them, and Kurama could see this. The more he saw of Naruto's determination, the more he realized that Naruto was genuine in his desire to help all of the tailed beasts. And slowly but surely, the two of them would come to rely on one another once again, until the point where Kurama would decide to aid Naruto, the two of them becoming partners, and Naruto freeing Kurama from his cage. As the two joined together, Naruto would gain access to KCM, and this would prove to be the masked Madara's downfall. For one, he attempted to finish the fight quickly. As an opportunity presented itself, he would suck Naruto away, trying to send him to another dimension. In the midst of their fight, Kakashi would realize that the technique the masked Madara was using with his Sharingan was very similar to his own, that being the Kamui. Once Naruto was inside of the Kamui dimension, he believed he had won and that the battle was his, since he now had the Nine Tails. However, what he wasn't expecting was a portal to open up. Before he even had time to react, Naruto would catch him off guard and punch him in the face, causing the mask to break as it fell to the ground. This would slowly reveal who the true masked Madara was, and to Kakashi's shock and horror, it was none other than his old comrade, Obito Uchiha. But for Obito, he couldn't believe what had happened. How had Naruto been able to escape from the Kamui dimension? It shouldn't have even been possible, unless Naruto had an ability similar to that of his father's in the Flying Raijin. However, Naruto looked down to Obito, telling him not to be underestimated. As they continued on in their fight, Obito, trying to match with Naruto in his speed, he attempted to use the Kamui once again, this time on Kakashi. However, this only made his situation much worse, as Kakashi was able to attack Obito every time he used Kamui on himself, and Naruto would attack on the outside. This caused Obito to have to fight a battle on two fronts. Naruto would use the Flames of Fontaine. Obito attempted to absorb it with his Rinnegan abilities. However, he would be unable to, as the Mystic Flames of Fontaine did not use chakra, but they were fire created from a different source. As such, the flames could not be absorbed at all, and Obito would have to use his Kamui power to evade the fiery attack. However, the moment he did so, he would find himself being attacked by Kakashi in the Kamui dimension. Obito realized that he was losing the battle on both fronts. With the aid of Jiraiya, who was also skilled in the mystic arts to a certain degree, it only made his situation go from bad to worse. In the meantime, both Sasuke and Itachi would arrive to the battlefield where they saw the five Kage, struggling in their fight against the revived Madara Uchiha, as he wrecked them using his Rinnegan. However, before he could get any farther, he would be stopped by a combined attack from both Sasuke and Itachi, the two brothers standing together, as they told the five Kage that they would take things over from here. The five Kage were unsure of what to do. They didn't want to leave this fight to them, but they knew better. They were probably their only hope at this point. Both Sasuke and Itachi would come face to face with their ancestor. Madara Uchiha, surprised to see that two Uchiha brothers were standing together side by side, and even more so, the both of them having the EMS, the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The two brothers had been working on a strategy on what to do, as Sasuke took the step forward. Madara mocked that it was unwise to let the younger brother lead, but Itachi merely shook his head, because they knew something that he did not. Madara would create 5 wood clones, the 5 clones going to attack Sasuke all at once. However, Sasuke was faster in this regard, as he used his concealment spell, turning himself invisible. Even with the Rinnegan, Sasuke was undetected, because Sasuke's ability was using that of the mystic arts, not chakra, a technique that he had learned from his master, Loki. Because of this, Madara, for all of his skill, could not see or detect where Sasuke was coming from. The Madara clones would all stand confused, not knowing where he had gone, before instantly, Sasuke, who had created multiple mystic clones of himself, would all teleport behind each of the wood clones and strike them down, as Itachi would go to work going face to face against the real Madara, the two of them matching one another in their prowess, Madara even praising Itachi, seeing that he was truly a once-in-a-generational talent. The two brothers worked together side by side, facing off against Madara. As Madara picked up a sword from the battlefield, he engaged with Sasuke one-on-one in swordplay. Sasuke used the teleportation spell to move both he and Itachi out of the way. Similar to how Minato used the flying Raijin, it was up to Madara to try to figure out where they were going to be next. A few times he had managed to strike them, however, they would merely disappear and turn into a flock of crows. Madara realized that he was truly dealing with a very skilled and capable shinobi. However, he was still confident enough to believe that his Rinnegan would give him the victory, as he attempted to summon a giant meteor to crush the two of them. Both Sasuke and Itachi would summon the Susanoo. The two Susanoo were able to break free and destroy the meteorite, the Shibaku Tennin, that was about to crash upon them. Seeing that the two of them had decided to use their Susanoo, Madara decided to bring out his own as well. The blue Susanoo staring down the red and the purple Susanoo, as the three engaged in a 2-on-1 fight. Madara Susanoo, with his additional extra arms and swords, would hold off the two of them as they fought. The battle would drag on, and the 5 Kage would watch from a distance. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. To think that this was the true power of the Uchiha, and that this was what they were capable of. Even with Sasuke's skills in the mystic arts, they were still on the back foot to a certain degree. What Madara lacked in the mystic ability, he made up for with his years of experience on the battlefield. As they continued their fight, Madara's Susanoo would begin to evolve, eventually growing legs and being able to stand on its own, as it had become the perfect Susanoo. However, Sasuke and Itachi weren't done yet, as they matched him as well, forming the perfect Susanoos of their own. However, Sasuke wanted to take it a step further. Fighting separately, they weren't going to stand a chance. If they were going to win, they were going to have to work together. The two brothers held each other's hands, outstretched to one another. Their Susanoos would begin to morph and join together as one. It would form that of Sasuke's Susanoo with red armor, that of Itachi. In one hand, he would hold the Yatamir, and in the other hand, he would hold the Tosca blade, coated in the black flame of Amaterasu. The two Susanos would become locked with one another in combat, Madara attempting to use his blade to strike it down. However, with the Yaramir, the attack would be turned back on the user, and Madara would end up taking damage from his own assault. While they used the Tosca blade, Madara attempted to avoid it to the best of his abilities. The brothers, combined with their ability, were able to match against Madara Uchiha, as Madara would launch a giant fireball jutsu. The two brothers would launch a combined fireball jutsu of their own, matching with the ancient Uchiha and canceling each other out. Even from a distance, the five Kage would feel overwhelmed by the flames being given off, feeling the power that the Uchiha were able to exude, knowing full well that this was a fight even beyond their capabilities. As Madara was starting to stagger, feeling the pressure now as the two Uchiha brothers joined and fought as one, Madara decided that he would focus his attentions on the weaker of the two of them, that being Itachi, unfortunately. He would target Itachi within their joint Susanoo, attempting to strike and knock him out of it, while they were able to counter with the Yaramir, using his extra arm, catching them off guard at the last moment. He would strike at the exposed weak spot of the Susanoo, causing it to dispel as the two of them fell out. Once they had done so, Madara would focus his attentions on Itachi. Itachi holding his own as he summoned his Susanoo once again to fight against Madara, and Sasuke attempted to do the same. They knew that the only way to win was going to be to seal away Madara once and for all, and Itachi believed that he could have the chance to do so, but that he was going to need time, and Sasuke was going to buy it for him. Back to the other side of the battlefield, the allied shinobi forces would quickly arrive to aid Naruto and the others as they fought against Obito. By the time the army had showed up, Obito had been fighting desperately for his life. He had had no choice but to use the small slivers of the remaining chakra that he could find in order to summon a partial Ten Tails. Thankfully, with the tail of the Eight Tails that he had managed to capture, along with the Gold and Silver brothers, who had pseudo Nine Tails chakra, he was able to use the Ten Tails at his disposal. Upon doing so, the allied shinobi forces would have to work together to try to contain the Ten Tails, both Haku and Sakura arriving to Naruto's side to help aid in any way that they could, along with Master Zabuza, who had also been fighting alongside of them. Zabuza would coordinate with the members of the allied shinobi forces, casting a large mist jutsu. After doing so, Haku decided to take over. She had been working on this technique for a long time, and now it was time to show off the fruits of her training. She first used the Byakugo seal, the strength of 100 seals, unleashing all of the chakra that she had stored away. As she did so, the diamond seal on her forehead would expand into patterns that would trace all over her head and her skin. Once she did so, she used Ultimate Ice Style, Ice Release, Crystallization. Similar to Iceman from the X-Men, her entire body would transform into ice, the highest form of Ice Release. Now formed into a being fully made of ice, amped with the strength of 100 seals, she would cast Ultimate Freezing, the mist that had fallen upon the Ten Tails. She would freeze it all at once, causing the giant being to freeze into place, with the Nara clan using their ability in the Shadow Possession Jutsu, they would freeze the Ten Tails in place and hold it. Obito had it difficult trying to move the Ten Tails. Haku would stay focused on freezing it and keeping it in place, and while she did so, Gaara, using his magnet release, would start to gather as much sand as he could from all under the ground in an attempt to bury the Ten Tails once and for all. Obito realized that he was running out of options. Kakashi tried to get through to his former partner, but it seemed as though he was too far gone, and there wasn't much else that they could do. While the allied shinobi forces were putting their plan into motion, Naruto continued his fight with Obito. Obito tried to dissuade him, to get him to give up, to abandon his hope. However, Naruto would rebuttal that he was the hopeless one. As Naruto cast the Winds of Watum, a great windstorm would form around Obito, pushing him back. Obito attempted to use Kamui once again, but it was pointless, as Naruto was able to counter it, being too fast. As he continued over and over again, Naruto waited for the right moment to strike. Using his sling ring, he created the portal the size of his hand. It had formed on Obito's back, and he waited till the right moment to take him out. As Obito was caught up with Naruto using both his hands to grab at Obito and hold him. Obito attempted to use Kamui once again. However, this time Naruto was ready, as he used a chakra arm with a Rasengan. It would appear from the portal on Obito's back and slam right into him. Amplified and even stronger than the one that his father Minato had used, the Rasengan would smash into Obito, and he remembered the feeling as he went crashing into the ground. With him temporarily stunned, Naruto would use the chains of Krakon. The red chains would wrap around Obito, restricting him of his movement. With the mystic arts, Naruto would cast a seal, holding him in place and restricting him of his chakra, making it unable for him to move and holding him in place. With Obito unable to do anything, Kakashi would move in at the opportune time, attacking his left eye with the Rinnegan and destroying it, making it useless and unable to be used. Obito would yell out in pain as Naruto gave the signal for Gaara to do what he was going to do. Gaara used every bit of his magnet release, Haku having froze the Ten Tails over and holding it in place. Gaara would use massive sand burial. The allied shinobi forces would move out of the way as Gaara's sand would stretch and consume the Ten Tails, burying it deep within a crater, and the crater being filled with the powerful sand. Once that had been done, Naruto would move in to finish the job. He used the Mystic Barrier, a seal used from Eldrick's magic, one that could never be undone by anyone that wasn't already used to the mystic arts. Upon doing so, the land itself would be sealed over, and the sand would become as hard as the strongest metal. With the Ten Tails sealed away, and Obito now captured, Naruto would sense Sasuke and Itachi's chakra. Along with Sakura, the two of them would use Naruto's sling ring and go to aid their comrade. The members of Team 7 now joining together as they went to see what was happening. Itachi was holding off against Madara, as Sasuke was trying to come up with a plan to seal away Madara Uchiha. With Madara's Rinnegan, if he attempted to use a form of ninjutsu, then Madara would simply be able to absorb it or escape. However, Naruto and Sakura would join by his side. He asked what they were doing here and what about the other Madara, but Naruto explained that they had defeated him, and now it was their turn to aid him. Madara looked over and saw that the Nine-Tails had arrived. Using his superior strength, he would brush off Itachi as he turned to face him, explaining that this changed nothing, and that, if he needed to, he would capture them once again, and his plan would be realized. As the three members of Team 7 stood together, facing against Madara Uchiha, it was now time for the three of them to join as one, and to truly show their mastery in the mystic arts. Sakura, using her chaos magic, would hold and bind Madara's Susanoo in place, restraining him and keeping him from moving. While she did so, Naruto would use his mystic chains to bind and hold him in place in addition, keeping him restrained and unable to move, as they would all chant in unison the summoning spell, one of which that would hold Madara and seal him in place, binding and keeping him from moving. In Madara's last-ditch effort for freedom, he would attempt to attack once again. However, Itachi would summon the Yada Mirror and reflect the attack back onto him. The three would use the spell, the Shackles of Sheol. Instantly, Madara's arms and legs would be bound and tied together, restraining him of his power and rendering him immobile, unable to move. Finally, with aid from Itachi, they would seal away Madara's soul and force him to return back to the other realm. Now Madara being moved on to the other side, he would be unable to cause any more torment or pain, and the last vestiges of his war would be brought to an end. The trio would sit beside one another, powering down as they were extremely tired from all of that effort. Itachi would walk over and congratulate the three of them for a job well done, as now the Fourth Great Shinobi War had been won. Following the war, much reconstruction was needed. The five great ninja nations would have to rebuild, and many of the dead who had lost their lives were buried and honored properly. Obito would be locked away in a prison as he served a life sentence, though Kakashi would try to visit him from time to time. Hopefully, he could bring his friend out of the darkness someday. As for Naruto and the others, they returned home to the village hidden in the leaves. Kakashi would take the role of the sixth Hokage shortly after, as Tsunade decided that following the war, she were ready to step down, and waiting for her would be none other than Jiraiya, who had officially passed down his spy network agency to Itachi Uchiha, as he felt as though he would do a much better job at it than he did. As for Naruto, he finally settled down with Haku, the two finally being able to enjoy time with one another, now that world peace was starting to take over. Although Zabuza was a bit enamored seeing Naruto get so close to his pseudo-daughter. In the end, he knew that Naruto made her happy, and with that was good enough for him. Although he did warn, if Naruto ever broke her heart or did anything to betray her trust, then he didn't care how strong Naruto was. He would face the edge of his executioner's blade. And even with Naruto's power, he believed it, and he acquiesced nicely. As for Sasuke, he settled down with Hinata, the two of them now starting to get closer and go forward with their relationship. And Neji, he approved of this, although he gave Sasuke the same speech when it came to Hinata and her safety. As for Sakura, while she was happy with the power she had, she still wanted to train and learn more. As such, she would spend her time with her sensei, Agatha, along with Kurenai sensei whenever possible. Along with training, she would also babysit baby Mirai whenever Asuma and Kurenai wanted to go out for a date. Although she had to find time for her own love life after all, as things with her and Rock Lee were going pretty steady. For the most part, it seemed as though a true peace was washing over the shinobi world, and all for the better. As some time had passed, Naruto, who was now reaching the age of 20, his wedding not too far away, he was wondering what he was going to do next. He wondered if he would ever see Wong or anyone else from the mystic temples ever again. He had been honing his craft and mastering the mystic arts that he already knew, but still, without further training, he could never get stronger. Naruto still had his dream of being Hokage, but before that, he at least wanted the title of Sorcerer Supreme first, even if he knew he would have to pass it on someday. As Naruto sat in his apartment, meditating, a portal would open behind him. And with that, Naruto would sense a presence that he hadn't felt in a long time. But it couldn't be. It couldn't really be who he thought it was. Naruto turned around, and who he saw standing before him, it caused tears to well up in his eyes. For who was standing before him was none other than Dr. Stephen Strange himself. Master? Is it really you? Hey kid, you've really grown since I last seen you. How you been? Instead of getting an answer, he would just feel arms wrapping around him, as Naruto cried tears of joy. Strange embraced his student. There was so much that Naruto wanted to know. How was Dr. Strange here? He thought that he had died back on Titan when that guy Thanos did the snap, or whatever it was called. How was he still alive? What on earth had been happening in all these years? However, Dr. Strange would stop Naruto, as he had to explain to him that they were going to need to talk later. Right now, something serious was about to happen, and he needed Naruto's help. Naruto and Strange would go to the Hokage's office where Kakashi would be waiting. After explaining everything to him, Strange stated that he needed Naruto's help for an upcoming battle. Kakashi realized the severity of the situation, and before Naruto could leave, he called in two other shinobi. Standing there, dressed in scarlet, was Sakura Haruno, and dressed in black Anbu gear was Sasuke Uchiha. Kakashi was going to classify this as a mission where the only requirement was that all three were to come back safe and sound. The three members of Team 7 would nod eagerly, Naruto sending off a mystic clone. He would go and inform Haku of what was happening, and Haku understood, although she made Naruto promise to come back alive as well. With that, the mystic clone would disappear, and Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke would follow Dr. Strange through the portal. As they did so, they saw two sides amassing large armies. On one side stood Thanos and the Chitauri, and as for Naruto and the others, they found themselves standing alongside the Avengers as the final battle, the endgame, was about to commence. This concludes What If Naruto Was Trained by Doctor Strange? Naruto Mystic Adventures Shippuden, Part 7. As always, if you're a fan of today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's videos as we are going to be concluding Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm based on the Heroes of the Morphing Grid series, Part 7, along with What If Naruto Was Trained by Doctor Strange, Naruto Mystic Adventures Shippuden, the OVA, Endgame. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.